Before the tragedy that was the swearing in of Donald Trump at noon today, outgoing President Biden broke some news.
President Joe Biden issuing brand new pardons before he leaves office today. That includes General Mark Milley, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and congresspeople who investigated the January 6th Capitol attack. I want to read part of this statement that he just issued. He said this: the issuance of these pardons should not be mistaken as an acknowledgement that any individual engaged in any wrongdoing, nor should acceptance be misconstrued as an admission of guilt for any offense. Our nation owes these public servants a debt of gratitude for their tireless commitment to our country.
Please let that sink in for a minute. President Biden is not pardoning these individuals because they were wrongly convicted of crimes for which they were not guilty. He's pardoning them in advance to save them from the retribution of the incoming president, simply because they did their jobs in the case of people like on the January 6th committee, trying to hold Donald Trump accountable, in the case of Anthony Fauci, for trying to alert people to the dangers of COVID, and perhaps worst of all, the Capitol police officers who risk their lives trying to protect the people in the Capitol building on January 6, 2021, from a mob incited by Donald Trump, half of whom, the Republicans in Congress, since betrayed them. They need to be protected from the wrath of Donald Trump, who has said explicitly that he wants them punished for doing their jobs and daring to try to hold him accountable for crimes against America. Before we get into the rest of this fun-filled day, please take a second to like and share this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We're really trying to grow. And after you subscribe, just click on the bell. That way you will be alerted every time a new video drops. If you're listening to this in podcast form on one of the many podcast platforms, please follow us and give us a 5-star rating, because it really does help other people find the shows. All right. Well, yep, there was an inauguration today. Things did not go completely smoothly. If you'll remember, flags were ordered at half staff right after President Jimmy Carter died. And because of an executive order signed, I believe, by Dwight Eisenhower, flags were supposed to remain at half staff for 30 days. We're still in that 30-day period, but because of the thin-skinned baby being sworn in today, he wanted the flags flown at full staff, and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson went along with it. Mother Nature and the planet hate Donald, so they decided to freeze the halyards on the flagpoles. So it took a while. The flags were actually frozen at half staff for a while. Speaking of which, Carrie Underwood, who was, for some bizarre reason, volunteered to sing, I think, America the Beautiful, didn't have such a great time of it. Watch this clip, because it will ease you in to the awkwardness that ensued.
You know the words, help me out here. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies.
Okay, well, first of all, there's not a lot to be thankful for today. Could have been Lara Trump. So, small miracles. And then Franklin Graham, who is nothing but a charlatan, stood up before the nation and in a prayer compared Donald to Moses, because that makes sense. I don't really have a lot to say about that. I have such contempt for the way these people manipulate those who believe. It just shouldn't be allowed. But there's one thing we could do and really need to do as soon as Democrats get into power: tax the churches, please. One of the things that made today a little harder to take was the many, many Democrats who decided to attend. And if you, well, let's look at a clip of the former presidents and a former Secretary of State who decided to show up, and also the oligarchical tech bros who helped buy Donald's way into the Oval Office. We had the Clintons, Bill and Hillary, George and Laura Bush, Barack Obama, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and many, many more. And yesterday, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez posted a video that makes the rest of them look really bad.
All these journalists are like, Congresswoman, are you going to the inauguration? Congresswoman, are you going to the inauguration? Are you going to the inauguration? Let me make myself clear. I don't celebrate rapists. So no, I'm not going to the inauguration tomorrow.
Yeah, it's that simple, guys. It is that simple. And you know what? We could use other words too. You don't like the word rapist? Okay. How about insurrectionist or traitor or fraud? There are a plethora of things you could have chosen to use as an excuse not to go. And I wonder, when I look at those people and I look at their adherence to the norms and to the process and to the pomp and to the circumstance, I want to ask them, for whom are you doing this? Seriously, who is that for? This performative bullshit that does nothing but normalize the guy who is going to strip this country for parts. There was a little bit of comic relief. I'm beginning to think that may be Melania's only purpose in life. She showed up looking dashing, as always. And we actually had a contest earlier in our live post-inauguration analysis. Here's Melania in her getup. And we had a poll. Does Melania look more like the Hamburglar, or does she look more like the Pizza Hut logo? The Pizza Hut logo. I said Pizza Hut logo, and I was wrong. 82% of people think she looks more like the Hamburglar. Oh well, I think that's an insult to the Hamburglar. But anyway, let's get to the speech, which was less dark than his so-called American Carnage speech of 2016. But, why should it be? He won again, and he won the popular vote. He won the electoral college vote. He doesn't have to lie about that for 4 years or 8 years. Actually, he's still lying about it. But it was still alarming. As is customary, and I don't want to say it offends me, but I don't really get it. I think all presidents have been sworn in on a Bible. All elected officials, they have a choice. You can be sworn in on the Constitution, which kind of makes sense to me. Although in Donald's case, if you brought out a Constitution, he would probably pull out a lighter and set it on fire. I mean, he's already done that figuratively. So there was a Bible. It was probably a Lee Greenwood Trump branded Bible. And now actually, since Donald has ripped off America in the last couple of weeks to the tune of about $25 billion, he can afford it. But interestingly enough, guess where he didn't put his little hand? Donald got sworn in to be president of the United States and did not put his hand on the Bible. I mean, he did it last time the Bible didn't catch on fire, which answered a lot of questions for some people. So I'm not sure why he shied away, but you would think that would offend people who pretend to care about that sort of thing. But of course not. And we'll get to that. We'll get to something else that should offend any decent human being on the planet a little bit later. But first, let's look at some of what Donald had to say during his speech. Here is his continuing obsession and his continuing misinformation about the Panama Canal.
The Panama Canal, which has foolishly been given to the country of Panama after the United States. The United States, I mean, think of this, spent more money than ever spent on a project before and lost 38,000 lives in the building of the Panama Canal. We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made, and Panama's promise to us has been broken. The purpose of our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
That's what the kids call an act of war. And, you know, the idea that Donald pretends that he has a problem with China doing anything when we know, especially in light of what's happening with TikTok, that he is clearly as much in the pocket of Xi Jinping as he is in the pocket of Vladimir Putin is a bit much to take. But, you know, never one to win gracefully. Here's some more things that Donald threatened us with.
Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. Our safety will be restored. The scales of justice will be rebalanced. The vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end.
Got away with everything, you pathetic piece of shit. Everything. So the idea that you are going to right the scales of justice, or that you, who has promised to seek vengeance upon your perceived political enemies, will de-weaponize the Department of Justice when you nominated a guy who had lied to people by saying that January 6th was perpetrated by the FBI, who has nominated a guy to head that agency who has promised to ruin the lives of those who simply sought to hold you accountable. Oh man, it's only day one. Anyway, he continued to speak nonsensically about his obsession with tariffs, of all things.
Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service to collect all tariffs, duties, and revenues. It will be massive amounts of money pouring into our treasury.
That, as they say, is not how any of this works. You place a tariff on a good imported from another country, and they will add the cost of that tariff onto the price of the good, and the American consumer pay for it. There is no bank account in the External Revenue Service, whatever that is, and I promise you, I have tried to understand it. There is no way to collect those tariffs because they're not tangible things. They're kind of like the non-fungible tokens that Donald is getting rich off of. Anyway, I don't know. We'll see how this plays out, but I am not full of confidence that it will redound to the benefit of the American taxpayer. Out of the many, many nauseating clips was this one.
Past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you.
Yeah, poor guy. Just want to take a second to say that I know a lot of you watching did fight the good fight, and this could feel like a blow. Well, it is a blow, but this could feel like it's a little too much to bear today of all days. But I think this is where we start figuring out what to let go. We can't let stuff like that sink its teeth into us, because that will not end well for us. But I do think it is important to just be very explicit about where he's starting from, so we can be prepared. So the convicted felon, found guilty on 34 criminal charges, the insider of insurrections and perpetrator of the big lie, thief of highly classified sensitive documents, got sworn in today. And as thousands of people lost their homes and many of their lives, Donald took time during his inaugural address to criticize Governor Newsom for being a Democrat in a blue state that did not vote for Donald. I mean, it turns out that Donald, hope you're sitting down, does have some sympathy, but it's probably not for the victims of the wildfires.
Our country can no longer deliver basic services in times of emergency, as recently shown by the wonderful people of North Carolina, been treated so badly. And other states who are still suffering from a hurricane that took place many months ago. Or more recently, Los Angeles, where we're watching fires still tragically burn from weeks ago without even a token of defense. They're raging through the houses and communities, even affecting some of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals in our country, some of whom are sitting here right now. They don't have a home any longer. That's interesting.
Yeah, they don't have a home. They probably have like a dozen homes. But, you know, very, very happy that he's concerned for the rich people in Los Angeles who lost their homes. And you know what? We should have empathy for people who lost their homes, no matter how rich or poor they are. But the idea that North Carolina was treated badly and that California can't take care of its own is it's so offensive, because one of the greatest reasons that blue states or states with Democratic governors cannot get the assistance needed to the people who need it is because such aid gets blocked by Republicans in Congress. All right, before I end this recap of what was obviously a very big day, I want to share with you something that it's sort of the perfect encapsulation of where we are as a country. We need to pay attention to how this is handled or not handled in corporate media. I have been talking about encroaching fascism in America since 2017. Of course, from 2017 to 2020, I was doing it in my living room and nobody was paying attention. But in 2020, in the lead up to that election, I was very clear, along with a handful of other people, that what we were staring down the barrel of was fascism. It took years for other people to start using that F word. So after Vice President Harris and President Biden departed, after their one term ended, Donald went to the signing ceremony. A post-inauguration rally started in the Capital One Arena. I guess it was hosted by one of the most fascistic people in Donald's inner circle, Elon Musk. Musk, who seems to think that he was elected to something, who seems to think that he is partially running this government, our government. Yes, he took to the stage to thank the audience, and then this happened.
And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you.
That is where we are. A dark day just got darker. So let's keep our eyes wide open.